Come again, 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 come again.
On the floor.
Dedicated to bringing you the best Caribbean-inspired content. My name is Gemma Feare and I'm your host for today's show, and we've got quite a lineup. It's our Business and Entrepreneur special. Today we dive straight into the business and entrepreneurial arena to look at some of the best entrepreneurs and businesses coming out of the Caribbean community. We are also going to explore some of the tough questions and thorny issues around Caribbeans in business. And of course, let's not forget to tune in to Home Sweet Home with Angie Le Mar on the beautiful island of Jamaica a little later on. Now, before we go any further, I want to say how excited I am to pick up from the wonderful Leah Charles King, who did a fantastic job with the show, as she heads off to new pastures. So if you're joining us for the first time, take a look at this. Here are some of our favourite moments with Leah.
I'm Leah Charles King and you're watching 1HEART Live.
Living legend Maxi Bruce and godfather of jungle, General Lee.
Booyaka, booyaka, OTV run the dance.
Booyaka, booyaka.
We gonna take back the talk.
Wow. I will never forget this show as long as I live. I have loved it. What a way to end the show. That was incredible. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, Leah. Love her. Now, as it's our Business and Entrepreneur special, in the hot seat this week, we have assembled 5 brilliant guests. They're going to share their stories and help us explore some of the most pressing issues in business today. To get us started, we have an award-winning businesswoman, a man developing the next generation of entrepreneurs, and a woman who went head-to-head with the nation's toughest boss. Please welcome to 1HEART Live, voted Black Businesswoman of the Year and one of the most senior Black executives working in the country, Margaret Casely-Hayford. He is best-selling author of 3 books, serial entrepreneur, consultant and business coach. Julian Hall, also known as the Ultrapreneur. Here he is, Julian Hall. And my third guest needs no introduction. If you've watched Sir Alan's The Apprentice, well, you'll know she went all the way to the finals. It's the toughest interview process in Britain. Please give it up for Bianca Miller. Thank you so much for joining us. It's a pleasure to have you on the show. Now, Margaret, I'm going to come straight to you because you have a fantastic journey up to this date. I mean, the first Black female to be made a partner in the city law firm. I mean, tell me about that journey.
I was really lucky, to be honest. I didn't have an idea of quite how difficult it was going to be, and I think that's always really important, and I think most people who really make it have no real idea of the risks that they're going to be taking.
Absolutely.
So I started life as a barrister, and I decided that actually I'd be better off as a solicitor. And I went into the city doing what I really wanted to do, which was planning and development. And the reason I wanted to do planning and development was because the lovely thing about planning is it's all about changing your environment, literally the physical environment, but the physical environment so that it impacts on your social
absolutely.
and working and really everything that affects our lives.
And I think it's that challenge, some of those pressing challenges that you faced in the corporate world that also, Bianca, I'm sure you faced starting out as an entrepreneur as well. Would you agree?
I did, yeah. So I started out after university working at Accenture as a HR advisor to 350 graduates. And so really working with them on their promotion cycle, how they were going to better themselves. And that's how I started my first business. It was about personal branding and understanding how you market yourself for a better future.
Absolutely. And Julian, you're an advocate of that as well, I believe. Personal development, coaching and technology, that's all your thing.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, I mean, I think my take on entrepreneurship is that we need to take a more holistic view and recognise the various aspects of our lives that affect our ability to succeed as entrepreneurs. And that's the kind of message that I'd like to get across to the next generation of entrepreneur in this country and around the world.
No, absolutely. And we will be looking at how we paved the way for the future, as well as taking a look at the history, each of your individual journeys, and some of the other greats that have come out of the Caribbean as well. So as well as celebrating and showcasing businesses and entrepreneurs, tonight we are asking a number of key questions. What does it take to make it as an entrepreneur? What is needed to develop the business Caribbean community? And do Caribbeans have the entrepreneur gene, like Mr. Superhero in the middle here? Has the Caribbean community been left behind by the others that have come to the UK? And finally, can you teach entrepreneurship? So today, as usual, we want to hear from you. Send us your stories from the business battlefield or any questions you may have for our guests here in the hot seat. Make the most of them. If you're an entrepreneur aspiring to be one, or maybe facing some of your own challenges in business, as many of our guests here today have, we want to hear from you. We're fully live and interactive, so tweet us at 1HEART TV. Send us a quick email, connect@onehearttv.com. Speak to us, give us a call, take it old school. We are 0207 819 6460, or send us some pictures on Instagram as well. We are at 1HEART_TV. Now, Margaret, before we delve deep into your story and look at some of the issues that we briefly mentioned earlier, let's take a look at this.
We've been marginalised for way too long. And when I say we, I'm talking very, very broadly here. I'm talking about women. I'm talking about black and minority ethnic people. I'm talking about disabled people. I'm talking about gay, lesbian and transgender people. We have been marginalised for a very, very long time, hundreds of years, and it has to stop.
Now, Margaret, from watching that video, I can fully understand what it took to take you up to Black Business British Person of the Year. I mean, that's the title that you won last year, isn't it? So congratulations for that, first of all.
Thank you very much. Thank you. It was an honour, a real honour. And to be honest, looking at the rostrum of people who had been called up for all the other categories, I'm still in shock even today, because it was just a room full of talent. It was really fizzing with talent. And you know what I want to say to the business world out there is look at the talent pool that you could draw from to bring people to the top of your enterprises. You know, there's just so much wealth of talent in that's just not being tapped.
And that's something that you're very active in promoting, in sort of expanding that talent pool to include greater diversity. How do you go about doing that?
Well, one of the things is that I'm an ambassador for Board Apprentice. Board Apprentice is a scheme that actually tries to encourage chairmen and chief executives of boards to bring through senior executives who are sort of board ready, if you like, sort of oven ready. And they are actually actively encouraged to come into the boardroom and see what a board is like, how it operates. Because, you know, part of the problem is the mystique. You know, you don't know what goes on behind the boardroom doors. It's all terribly fascinating and worrying. And so that prevents people from actually applying to be non-executive directors. And to be a non-executive director in another company is actually one of the best ways of actually adding value in your own company.
Yes.
Because you start to question, you start to critique things, you start to see the world more widely, and you begin to add value. So it's actually a really, really useful thing for the host organisation as well as for the organisation that the individual goes into.
Yes, absolutely. And you've also very active in charity as well. You're chair of Charity Aid, Action Aid. How's that? Action Aid is a wonderful,
I suppose, full stop to my legal career, because I was a lawyer for 30 years before I retired, and then I took on the chairmanship of Action Aid. And the reason I took on Action Aid rather than any other charity, first of all, they asked whether I'd put my hat in the ring, which is always asked, but also because of what they do. I mean, I wake up every morning and the top of my agenda is, you know, relief of poverty, which is just fantastic, but also the way they do it, working through a federation. So rather than, you know, sort of an enterprise in the global north saying to people in the global south, well, this is how you should spend that money. It's not about the spending of the money. It's about actually empowering people to change their own environment.
Yes.
And that's really, really critical to giving people the strength to negotiate with their governments. And that's sustainable. You know, one day we'll be able to walk away and say, these guys are strong enough to look after themselves, which is very, very forceful as a reason for continuing.
Absolutely. And as well as being black business person, I'd like later to discuss with you a bit more about what it takes to be a black woman in those environments, both in charity and in legal sector as well. So that'd be fantastic. And now we will be going straight to a video with Mr. Hare, finding out more about him and his fantastic career and journey.
I always consider shoes to be the sort of punctuation mark of any outfit that you wear. You know, you can either wear something quite flamboyant, in which case your shoes sort of should settle back into the background a little bit, or you can wear something sort of just very smart and clean, and then your shoes can be a bit more expressive at the end of that outfit. I certainly look at everyone's shoes that I walk past, you know, and I believe that most other people do, and I think people probably judge people a lot more by their shoes than people make out.
British shoe designer Mark Hare was born in South London to an English mother and a Jamaican father. Mark started his career working in fashion PR. However, his passion for design saw him becoming a design consultant for British outdoor clothing company CaribDirect, whilst working as a marketing consultant for big brands such as Nike, Adidas and Levi's.
I always loved shoes because of the youth culture associations that they had. Every time I wanted a shoe, it was because I'd look somewhere and look at this gang of people who were into this music, and they had that shoe, and that was a signifier of what they were into. So for me, it was a whole thing about shoes as just like a big romance. I want it so that it could be the thing that everyone else knows what I'm about.
Amongst his other successes, he also opened an innovative fashion boutique called Something, which stocked luxury designer brands.
Whenever you put on a pair of just awesome shoes, you just feel like you can do anything. And you know, every time you repeat that feeling through your life, you get a new pair of shoes, you put them on, you go out, and people go, I like your shoes. You know, it's a great feeling.
Inspired by the way designer shoes made him feel and the respect he received whilst wearing them, in 2009, his brand Mr. Hare was born. Irrespective of the fact that Mr. Hare had no formal training in shoe design, the stylish shoes were sold in prestigious stores such as Harrods and Selfridges, and in 2012, the first Mr. Hare store opened in Mayfair.
The first thing that attracts me to a pair of shoes is the actual shape of it and the work that's gone into the last. When a last is quite refined and it's been sort of moulded to make the foot look absolutely stunningly beautiful, then you can see that work has been put into that shoe.
His shoes are now sought after by the rich and famous all over the world. Some fans of his design include Tiny Temper, Tom Hardy and Javier Bardem. The Guardian has proclaimed Mr. Hare to be quietly becoming one of the most important names in British menswear.
So throughout the show, we will be profiling some of the people from the Caribbean or of Caribbean descent that we think are doing some of the most extraordinary work within business. That was Mr. Hare with Shoes, Glorious Shoes. And after this break, we'll be hearing from Julian, Bianca and Margaret as well on their experience being second, third, fourth generation Caribbean and what they're doing to make a difference both here and in the Caribbean. We'll see you after this.